Joe and Mika Brzezinski Scarborough, who famously warned of the growing threat of Trump's fascism, also had an interesting announcement to make. As many of you are aware, the news has been pretty bleak recently, in the past 200-300 years. Listen, but this weekend, there was one story that was so disturbing, so dark, even the news couldn't handle it.
Well. Jon Stewart just took Joe Scarborough and his ever-so-solemn wife, Mika Brzezinski, to the rhetorical woodshed, and the internet is ablaze. Apparently, Stewart had the audacity to call out the power couple's latest round of hypocrisy, pointing out that their recent behavior doesn't quite match the lofty moral standards they love to preach from behind the MSNBC desk. It's not every day you see someone publicly challenge their own media tribe. It's like spotting a unicorn in the wilds of cable news. But of course, this is Jon Stewart we're talking about. The man has built an entire legacy on slicing. Through political spin and media nonsense, no matter what color the branding, red, blue, or that signature MSNBC beige, there's no shortage of drama here, so buckle up. This ride's about to get wild.
Joe and Mika Brzezinski Scarborough, who famously warned of the growing threat of Trump's fascism, also had an interesting announcement to make.
Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Because you said he was Hitler.
Exactly. You don't get to spend years branding someone as a monster, a dictator, a fascist light version of Hitler, and then sprint to the White House like it's a Golden Globes after party the moment an invite shows up. Come on, pick a lane. Now to be clear, no one's saying Trump's fiercest critics should never engage with him. Constructive dialogue is healthy, if it's honest. But there's a massive difference between principled opposition and an obsessive crusade to publicly crucify someone, only to cozy up to them in private. You can't shout from your MSNBC soapbox about Trump being a threat to democracy and then turn around and play nice over dinner like he's just your eccentric uncle with a few bad takes. And yet that's exactly the Scarborough strategy. Full-blown, outrage by day, elite access by night. It's not journalism, it's political theater with a dinner menu and a side of hypocrisy. That's why Jon Stewart is calling them out. Because he's sick of the double standards, and frankly, so are a lot of us.
We don't know what the visit was. We don't know what the tone of the visit was.
We talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents.
Oh, I bet you really laid down the gauntlet, Joe. I bet you walked in there and just let him have it, didn't you, Joey? Mr. President, your rhetoric is outrageous. I cannot in good conscience... Ooh, are those macaroons? The pink one is raspberry.
Like Jon Stewart, I can only imagine the gripping exchange Joe and Mika Scarborough had during their cozy visit to the White House. Did they lock eyes with Trump and say, "Hey, you're a fascist"? Did they drop a Hitler reference between bites of filet mignon and sips of White House wine? Or were they a bit too busy soaking in the plush surroundings and admiring the decor to summon that same fiery MSNBC bravado? Because here's the thing. It's easy to play resistance hero from the comfort of a studio, where the only opponent is a teleprompter. But it's a whole different story when you're face-to-face with the man you've spent years comparing to history's darkest figures. Suddenly, the moral outrage softens into polite smiles and photo ops. That's not journalism. It's performance art. And for Joe and Mika, the spotlight seems to shine brightest when there's power, prestige, and a top-shelf catering spread on offer. This isn't even the first time Jon Stewart has called out MSNBC for this kind of hypocrisy. Just a few months ago, he went after the entire network for what he dubbed their chronic case of Trump derangement syndrome, where outrage isn't a response to real danger, but a reflexive, ratings-driven routine.
But this weekend, there was one story that was so disturbing, so dark, even the news couldn't handle it.
We're not going to show because of how disturbing it is.
I was extremely disturbed to see this.
Horrible, horrible, violent imagery.
Violent and dehumanizing imagery.
We're only going to show you a clip of this briefly.
All right, that's enough. Let's take it down.
I didn't get to see it at all.
The ominous music, the solemn faces, the dramatic pauses. You'd think you were watching coverage of a national tragedy or the opening scene of a political apocalypse. But what followed? A whole lot of nothing. Just another overblown MSNBC segment built on smoke, mirrors, and melodrama. It drives the point home perfectly. MSNBC has turned exaggeration into an art form. They'll gladly spotlight and blow out of proportion even the most mundane of Trump's actions if it means scoring a few cheap political points. A moment barely worth. Mentioning gets wrapped in doomsday language and paraded as evidence of creeping tyranny. But this isn't journalism. It's theater, and not the good kind. It's manufactured outrage wrapped in dramatic flair, designed to stir emotion, not inform.
Image of President Joe Biden hogtied on the back of a pickup truck.
And that's exactly what grinds Jon Stewart's gears, the non-stop. Exaggeration and theatrical sensationalism, all delivered with a straight face as if any of it is fresh, shocking, or unprecedented. The media clutches its pearls like civilization is unraveling before our eyes, conveniently forgetting the circus they once applauded. Remember 2017? Comedian Kathy Griffin posed proudly with a mock-severed head of Donald Trump. It was grotesque, tasteless, and deeply disturbing, but MSNBC? Silent. Not a hint of the moral panic we're seeing now. Fast forward to today. Trump shares a clearly satirical video of Biden hogtied to the back of a pickup truck, and suddenly it's DEFCON 1. Urgent panels are assembled. The tone turns grave, and anchors behave as if the Constitution is bursting into flames. This isn't journalism, it's selective outrage on steroids. It's not about standards, it's about agendas. And Jon Stewart, like many of us, is sick of watching this same tired, performative script play out on an endless loop.
There's no doubt.
There's no misinformation.
There's some disinformation from the left, but comparing it to what Donald Trump spews out every day, every week, comparing it to what Elon Musk is spewing out, unfortunately, on X, you sound like Brett Stevens now, with all due respect. It's a joke. That's a real time.
And you sound like him, who looks like Rachel Maddow. Or
you understand what I'm saying?
But I've never argued with that. I've never argued of the false equivalency. I just said there is misinformation from both sides. No, I lived through COVID. Don't tell me there wasn't misinformation.
But there's a difference between...
I lived through stupid policies based on bad information and stifled information.
But intent matters.
That's what Zuckerberg said. He said they were forcing us not to put out...
Jon Stewart keeps peeling back the layers of MSNBC's selective morality, this time calling out their ever-shifting sense of decorum. He pointed out the obvious. This is the same network that has no problem airing repeated footage of 9/11, live coverage of gruesome accidents, natural disasters, and scenes of real-life trauma, graphic content, and deeply distressing imagery. That's apparently acceptable, as long as it serves the narrative or pumps up the ratings. But when Trump posts a video that's blatantly satirical and cartoonishly over the top, suddenly, MSNBC gasps in horror and deems it too shocking for public consumption. Really? That's the red line? Refusing to show the clip under the guise of protecting viewer sensibilities isn't about principle. It's pure performance. It's MSNBC playing gatekeeper, not out of moral duty, but to protect their own carefully curated storyline. Because let's be honest, when real tragedy aligns with their messaging, they're all in. But when satire exposes their bias, cue the blackout. The double standard is so obvious even Bill Maher couldn't help but take shots at Scarborough and company. The hypocrisy is just that glaring.
2014 study that showed that Fortune 500 companies were more likely to pick a female CEO if the company was struggling, basically setting women up for the big job, but to also fail. If they did well, fine. But if they failed, like, look, we have a female CEO while failing. And that's what I feel like they did to Kamala Harris. When Biden refused to step aside and not run again, he was supposed to be that bridge. He backed off on that promise due to arrogance. And then he drops out after a catastrophic debate performance, and they set Kamala Harris up to fail. It was a 3-month campaign, and she was supposed to introduce herself to the American people. No wonder people were Googling, did Joe Biden drop out? And so...
No. No. You saying 3 months wasn't long enough? It was too long.
It was long enough.
It was long enough.
If they had a primary...
It's not that they didn't have time to introduce. They met someone and they didn't like them.